Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope all of you are doing well. So guys, in today's video, we'll see how we can provision a virtual machine on Azure cloud using Terraform. So let's start our today's video. So in today's video, firstly, we'll see how we can provision virtual machine manually. And after creation of that virtual machine manually, what all resource get created in backend. So all those resource we need to use in our Terraform script in order to automate that virtual machine creation, and then we'll create step by step Terraform script, and once that is done, then we'll see how we can do it practically. So how we provision a VM manually on Azure cloud? So firstly, we'll log into the portal, that is an Azure portal, and there we are having an icon virtual machine that is highlighted. So we'll click on it. Once we'll click on it, we'll see a lot of options during its creation, but we will mainly focus on basics, disks and networking section, because rest all sections are of no use as of now. So we'll go with the default option that will get created in the backend by itself. So firstly, when we create on virtual machine, we see this particular screen in front of us. So in this screen, we need to click on create, and there we need to select Azure virtual machine. Then we are seeing here subscriptions and resource group. So subscription is getting provided once we create an account on Azure, whether it's a free account or a paid account. So one subscription will get provided, so no need to be worried about this. The second parameter that is there is resource group. If we'll not create this resource group, it will ask us to create a new resource group. So it will take the name by itself, but if we are going to automate, we need to give everything by ourselves. So the very first resource in Azure that we need to provision using the script is resource group. So that we need to keep note that we need to create a resource group first, and then we need to provide virtual machine name, then region, then image, then size. These all are the mandatory parameter. So we need to provide all these parameters. So as we are providing here manually, once we'll create a script, we need to provide there also. So these are the parameters that are required when we go with the virtual machines details. And after that, it will ask for administrator account authentication type, whether we can access that machine with the help of SSH public key or with the help of password. So we'll go with the username and password. So we need to provide username and password. And after that, it will ask for any inbound port. So 2022 port needs to be open, because if we want to get access our machine from outside, then SSH needs to be created. A SSH connection is required in order to access the machine. So 22 port needs to be open, and if we want more ports, then we can open those ports also. So all these points we need to keep in mind when we automate anything, because during manual process these all things are required. So we'll have to provide these things once we'll go with automation. The next thing that we need to provide is the OS disk that is going to be fixed for your virtual machine. So what kind of OS disk is required? So there are multiple options in this tab. So here it is mentioned premium SSD, but we'll go with the standard SSD because that is less costly. This is the costliest one. So we need to keep in mind that we need to create one OS resource also. And then we need to go for the networking section, where we need to provide the virtual network subnet, public IP, network interface card, and the public ports. So if we don't provide anything here, it takes it by default by self. But when we automate anything, then we will not go with the option that is going to create anything by default. Rather, we'll provide the names by our choice. So we need to create all these resources also, so that we'll have complete control on the resources for our virtual machines. So once we do it manually, it if we don't provide anything, it take it by default, and we'll not go with by default option. We'll create everything by our name, and then it will ask us for what inbound ports you want to open for this machine. And here it is saying that this will allow all IP address to access your virtual machine. This is the only recommendation for testing. So we also need to open these port, and these ports comes under network interface security group. Okay, after providing this, once we click on create, then our virtual machine get create on Azure cloud. So this is a snapshot from that virtual machine resource group. So I have created one resource group test RG. Inside that, once we clicked, it gave us all the resources. So this window will give us the clue that what all resource we need to provision when we'll provision virtual machine. So here we can see the things like we need to create one virtual network. In this virtual network, we need to create sub network, and then we need to create one public IP. We need to create network security group. We need to create network interface, one disk we need to assign to our VM, and then we need to use a virtual machine resource. So step by step, we'll create this complete Terraform script, and we'll create the complete VM on Azure cloud with the help of Terraform infrastructure as a code. So in theory, we were having these things. So let's summarize that what we get with those screenshot when we were creating that virtual machine manually. So what all Azure resources required in order to provision the virtual machine? The first resource that is required is the resource group. So firstly, we'll create a resource group, and then we'll create the second resource, that is virtual network. Once virtual network is provisioned, then we need to create a sub network. Once that sub network is provisioned, then we need to create a public IP, and once public IP resource is also there, then we can create a network security group where we can allow ports by which on those ports that machine should get accessible. So that will open using this resource. Once network security group is also set, we need to create network interface. So this network interface basically having the public IP associated with it, so that this virtual machine can be accessible using that public IP. So this NIC card is basically the virtual machine's NIC card, and public IP get applied to this network interface, and will also apply network security group to this network interface, so that public IP along with the port, we can access this virtual machine using these two parameters. Once that resource has been created, we need to associate the NSG to network interface, because that is required, because network interface is just like, you can say that this virtual machine once created, it will be having an NIC card, and that NIC card will get one IP, that will be our public IP once we'll associate it. And then we need to associate a security group which will be having the ports, and all those ports will get open for this virtual machine using this network interface. So suppose if we open 80443 port, so by using public IP with 80 or with 443 port, this machine should be accessible. Once this is done, we'll launch our last resource, that is virtual machine, and we'll pass all the required parameters in it. So once all these parameters will get created, then with the help of Terraform, we'll provision an Azure virtual machine. And once this machine will get created, then we'll access this machine from outside world, or we can say from internet, using public IP. So in this way, we automate the complete infrastructure using Terraform. So theoretically, I hope things are clear, but if these things are not clear, then we'll use Terraform documentation, and step by step, we'll provision all these resource, and then we'll try access our machine post creation using Terraform. So this was the theory, and now we'll proceed with our practical demo. Okay guys, so this is our Azure portal, and in this portal we can see so many icons under Azure services. So let's check whether there is any resource group or not. So as of now there is no resource group, and we can also check the virtual machine. So as of now there is no virtual machine, so we are good and we can start our practical. So firstly what we'll do, we'll open Visual Studio Code, and in this Visual Studio Code I have opened one folder that is created on my desktop. It's a test folder. So here we'll create two files. So one file is main.tf, and another file is provider.tf. So once we'll create these files, so we can see Terraform icon in front of these two files. So this is the actually beauty of this Visual Studio Code editor. That's why we are not using here our what we can say notepad as an editor. So firstly we need to give settings for our provider. As we are using Azure cloud, so we need to use a connection string that we are going to use for provider with Azure and Terraform. So what we can do, we can go to Google, and here we can search Terraform Azure provider. So nothing we need to remember, because everything will do using this documentation. So there is very first link, that is with docs overview of Terraform Azure. So here we are having the provider, so we can click on this provider and it gives us the connection string. So we'll copy this string and we'll just paste it in our provider.tf file. So this is good. So there is some configuration option. So what configuration option we need to provide here? So we'll use service principal in order to connect this Visual Studio Terraform with our Azure cloud. Why we create service principal and how to create service principal, that I have already explained in my previous videos. So those who are new and who haven't watched yet my previous video, just go there where I have given a theoretical session related to how we can create the service principal using Azure portal. So please refer to that section, it will be helpful. And in today's video we are just going to use that service principal. So service principal is a combination of four things, that is subscription id, tenant id, client secret. And if we want to add further any features, so we can make this feature block also blank as of now, because we are not going to use. And we'll copy it and we'll paste it here. Okay, so as of now I'm not filling anything here because these all four parameters are confidential. So it is a just kind of username and password and other things, so that is confidential, we don't need to get it shared. So as of now I'm keeping everything as it is, and once I'll run this demo, then I'll place these parameters, and I'll not share these parameters because these are confidential. So as we can see, there is a white dot after provider.tf. It means it is not yet saved. If we'll do Control S, then that dot has removed, so it means this file is saved. So our provider is basically the connection that we are going to create with this Visual Studio Terraform to our Azure cloud. And I have also already installed Terraform. So in my previous videos I have also explained how to install Terraform, how to set the environment variable and everything I have explained there. So please refer to that video if you are not aware how to install Visual Studio Code, how to install Terraform, and how to make connection between Terraform, Visual Studio and our Azure cloud. So this is basically the connection string that we need to use when we need to provision anything on Azure cloud. Now we'll go to the main.tf. So what all things we need to use in main.tf file? So in this file, what we need to place? So we don't need to remember anything. We are just going to create a virtual machine. So there is one resource, that is Azure RM. So everything will get create using this Azure Resource Manager. So here if we'll write virtual machine, so it will give us the documentation how we can create virtual machine. So here, as we can see that there are certain parameters it mentioned, just like we need to create a resource group, and then it is saying that we need to create virtual network, and then it is saying that we need to create sub network, and then we need to create network interface, and then the virtual machine. But in our slides I have explained multiple other things also, because if we'll not create those things, then it will use by default those things, or it will get create with the name that it takes by default. But we are not going with the names by default, we'll create everything with the name that we'll mention, so that we'll be aware that okay, what all things are going to create and how it is getting linked to virtual machines. So actually it gives us a better knowledge of infrastructure also, that in the previous time how different teams do these things, like networking team or we can say compute team, what all things they do in order to provide us a machine that was a virtual machine in that time, but in cloud everything we need to do by ourselves. So that's why it gives us better knowledge of infrastructure, and the concept will get clear once we'll create everything by ourselves. So first resource it is creating is Azure group, then virtual machine, then subnet, then network interface. So what we'll do, we'll again go to Google, and step by step we'll search a resource just like Azure RM, and then we can search for resource group. So what we need to do, we can go to this link and here we'll get the code of resource group. So we'll copy one by one and we'll paste it here. Okay, and the name is the example one, and we need to change the location because we don't want resource to create in Europe, we just want it to be in India. So in India there are two options provided, this is the South India and North India. So I'm going to create in South India, and as we can see there is one dot, so we'll do a control S. So that is okay. So our first resource get create. Now second resource what we need to create is the virtual network. So similarly, once the resource group is done, we need to use a virtual network. So we'll search for virtual network this time. So just go here and go with virtual network, and we'll get a code for virtual network. So in virtual network, it is already creating one resource group, so that we have created. Now it is saying that when you need to create a virtual network, so it is giving the subnet and everything, it is giving in detail. So this documentation appears to be a very big for virtual network. So we'll go to the previous one because we just need to create a virtual network. So we'll copy this code that is easily understandable and that is not having anything related to the things, so that will not get clear. So here we are seeing some $var dot prefix. So if we don't want to give it, we can remove this parameter here, and we can just give it like uh, test network. Okay, and address space is the IP, so we can also give any range of our IP, but as of now we are just going to test this virtual machine, so we'll use the default one that it is providing. And in case of location, we are seeing that Azure RM resource group dot example dot location. Why it took it? Because it is using same location that we are providing here. So unnecessary this code should not get repeat by writing the same thing. So what it did, it used Azure resource group and then dot, then the local name, that is example, and then dot the location. So this is the location. So it is very pretty clear that how to access a particular variable from other resource. And in case of resource group name, again this Azure resource group dot example dot name. So again and again we don't need to write, rather we are just referring to it using this dot and the variables feature. So now we are done with our Azure virtual network. The third thing that we need to create is the subnetwork. So what we'll do, the subnetwork code is also available. So we'll copy it and we'll paste it. So Azure subnetwork, and everywhere we are seeing that it is giving some different name to the local name, like main, like internal. So we need to be aware that whenever we are referring to it, we need to use this local name. So the second one is done. The third one, in the case of subnet, it is the name internal. So we can also prefix it with test internal, so that we'll be aware. And resource group name, in the same way it is accessing Azure resource group dot example dot name. And virtual network name, it is now referring Azure virtual network dot main dot name, Azure virtual network dot main dot name. And then the address prefixes, it is the IP that we can create. So it is using this one. We can have a choice of any subnetwork within this virtual network, but as of now we'll go to the default one. So we'll use the same and we'll save it. The fourth resource that we need to create is the public IP, but that is missing here. If we'll see the documentation, it is directly going for network interface. So we can create network interface also here, but as a process or step-by-step creation, we firstly need to go with the public IP. So let's search for public IP. I'll show you why I'm using this public IP prior to that section, because there is some reason. So if we'll go to the public IP section, so we can, this is a data resource. So resource for public IP is firstly the Azure group, resource group, then virtual network, then subnetwork, and then the public IP. So this public IP, we can pick it from here. We can copy it here and then we can paste it here. So here we can see that some tag is giving here, but if we don't want to give any tag, we can remove it. So as of now, we don't want to tag it with any specific environment, so we are removing it. And After that, the location, similar way it is accessing Azure resource group dot example dot location, and then the resource group name is the same, and then the allocation method is a dynamic, and there is one ideal timeout time. So by using this, we'll be able to create our public IP. So that is okay. Now we need to create network security group where we'll open the port. So here we can see that it is creating network interface. So we'll need this network interface also, and we need to create network resource group, or what we can say, that is the network security group in order to open some port. But we can go with this network interface also. So if we want to get it create, we'll copy it from here, or if you don't want to get it copy, you can again go to Google and you can search for it. So it will give you that Azure RM, and then we need to create network interface. So it will give you the documentation. So we don't need to remember anything, everything is available and we can go with it. So this code we can copy it from here, because as you can see, when we are searching network interface, already it is showing three things: Azure resource group, then virtual network, then sub network. And in this way, because without using these three things, we'll not able to create it, because we need to pass it. So we'll copy it and we'll paste it here. So it is now the Azure network interface. And why it has not shown public IP yet? Because as we can see that there is no public IP declare here, but we need to pass it in this network interface. Why? So that we can access our machine from outside the internet. So there is some parameters, these all are the parameters that here it is provided, like required, required, required. It means these are the mandatory parameters we have to give, and in optional parameters, these we can mention or we cannot mention. It's depend on our choice. So we'll see something related to public IP also here, like public IP address ID. So what we'll do, looks like it's a link, so we'll not be able to copy it. Or what we can do, public underscore IP address underscore ID. So we can write it here, public underscore IP address underscore ID. So we can write in this way, it's public IP address ID. Fine. And we can give its value. Okay. So what will be its value? Its value will be from public IP we can get. So what its value will be, we can take it, this IP name, we can copy it here. Okay. And then dot example, its local name. Then we'll paste it here, and then dot ID. So in this way, we can get it linked with the public IP, and now we are assigning public IP to our network interface. So this is also done. After that, we need to create security group. So how we can create that security group? We don't need to remember anything, we'll just search it here, network security group. Okay, so once we'll do it, we'll be able to get the security group here. And what is the code? This is the code for security group. So we'll copy it from here and we'll place it here. Okay, so now we are having the security group. What we need to do here is the name and location. So we need to verify resource group example location. Yes, example location, and resource group example name, example name. Because if we are copying it from somewhere else, means if we are opening it with some specific code, then sometime this local name got changed. As we can see, everywhere it is example, but when we were creating VNet, it was main, it was internal. So we need to keep an eye on this local name, because we needed to get it accessible. So here we can see, like, In the source port, it's star 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 for everything. So what destination we want to open for our machine? We want to open 22 port. And if we want to open 80443 also, so multiple port needs to open. So in order to open multiple port, there is some provision we can see here. If we want to open source port or the port ranges, then we need to use uh, ranges instead of range. So destination port range, we can open one port, but if we want to open multiple port, we need to use destination port ranges. Okay, so as of now, what we'll do, we'll only open a port of 22 here. Okay, destination port range 22. So that is also done. Now we can remove this tag because we don't need any tag here. So we are good with security group also. Now we need to attach the security group to network interface. That's why I was creating this resource prior to interface, so that there should be some sequence. But anyways, now we'll create one more resource, that is network security group association with network interface. So we'll search it, network security group association. Okay, so when we'll go with network security group association, so what it require, it will need subnet ID and it will need network security group ID. So it is Azure subnet network security group association. So it is for security group, yes. And we need to attach this security group to NIC card. But I think this resource is not correct. We need to search for network interface security group association. So we need to assign it to network interface, but it was missing there. So network security group is created, interface is created. Now we need Azure Network Interface Security Group Association, where we need to pass network interface ID and security group ID. So we'll use it and we'll paste it. So that's why we need to be very sure about the resources that we need to create. Otherwise, that Terraform script will fail and will not able to make the successful deployment or virtual machine, or will not be able to access. So this is Azure Network Interface Security Group Association. So we need to associate it with network interface. So what is our network interface? It is Azure Network Interface Example. So its ID will be Azure RM network interface.example.id. And what is security group? So security group is also Azure RM network security group.example, Azure RM network security group.example.id. So we are good. So this resource is also good. We can save it. After that, what we need to do, we need to now go to the virtual machine section. So we have already opened it. For the virtual machine, we searched it. So all these resources are done. Now we need to go with the virtual machine section. So this is the complete code for virtual machine. So we'll copy it and we'll paste it here. Okay. So this complete virtual machine code is this. So we can remove this prefix because we don't want to use it. So we'll give a name, test VM. That is okay. Location is Azure RM resource group example.location, and name is the same, network ID is the same, network interface is with main. So we need to check it whether network interface is with main or not. No, network interface is with example. So better to take every name with example only, so that we'll be aware about it. So in network interface, we'll go with not main but with example. So we are done, and this is the VM size. We can go with it. There is nothing to delete. And in case of publisher, we can go with either with this image or we can change any other image. So suppose we want to go with the Ubuntu image, so we can mention Ubuntu server here. So Ubuntu server we can mention, and the image we can go with either 20 or 1804 LTS. So these all things we can take from the portal. where when we can create it manually. So 10 is not available, we can go with 18. So 18.04 is this, and in the OS disk we can go with the standard LRS, or we can go with standard SSD LRS, so that is also fine. We can change it, either we can go with standard or with this name. This will be the host name, this will be the username and password we are going to use, and we need to disable password authentication to false, so that we'll be able to use these username in order to access the machine. Now we can remove these things because we don't need tags as of now, and I think we are good with all the things that is required in order to create a virtual machine. So we don't actually remember anything, that what all resources we need to get remember in order to get it work. We'll not remember anything, rather we'll create everything by the documentation. So that's why it is easy to get it code, and we need to actually have some knowledge of cloud, that what all resources are required in order to create a particular resource. Then we can use a documentation and we can get it create. So guys, I think with the file we are good, and now what we can do, we can save it, and I'm going to place that key or all these four parameters in these four uh, service principal, or we can say like subscription ID, tenant ID, client and secret. And once I'll put it, we'll execute this code and we'll see whether it works or not. So I'm pausing it, and once I'll fill it, then I'll use those commands. Okay guys, so I have placed the service principal in provider.tf, and our complete file is here. Now what we'll do, we'll go to run, and then we'll go with, sorry, we'll go to terminal, and then we'll open a new terminal window. Okay, so here firstly we'll check whether Terraform is there or not. So we can use it by Terraform hyphen version. So yes, Terraform command, it is showing here. So we are good. Now the very first command that we need to run here is the Terraform init command. So once we'll run it, Terraform init command, so what it'll do, it will download the plugins related to Azure cloud from the provider section that we have declared. So let's do it Terraform init. It takes some time, so it will download all those plugins. As we can see that it is saying initializing provider plugins, and it is installing HashiCorp Azure RM with 3.90.0. So that's why we were using Azure RM, because this is the utility we need to use whenever we provision anything on Azure cloud. So it takes some time because it is downloading those provider plugins. And as we can see that Terraform has been successfully initialized, and parallelly in the backend we can see that there is .terraform file has been created and one lock file has been created, because it is locking the version of Terraform provider that we have declared in our provider.tf file. So we are good here. Now we need to run a command, that is Terraform plan, so that we can see what all resources are going to create on Azure. It will give us a blueprint, but it will not actually going to create. It will just show us that these all resources are going to create. So this command will also check whether we are able to connect to Azure cloud or not. So let's run it. So here it is saying like reference to undeclared resource, that is Azure RM underscore subnet dot example dot id, that is on line 31. So we need to see it. So line 31, it is saying we are using Azure RM subnet example ID. So this is correct. Why it is correct? Because the local name of our subnet was different, and here it is example. So what was the name of our subnet's local name was internal. So we need to copy it. Okay. And then we need to get it changed on line number 31. So that's why, as a good practice, what we can do, we can keep example as a local name for every resource. So then it will be easy. Otherwise, every time we need to correct it. So let's see whether we are having anything else that is giving any problem in connection with that local name. So looks like this time that error is resolved, and it is doing something in backend. So it is checking actually. So Terraform plan, when we run, then we can see that it is generating a file terraform.tf state along with lock.info. So this is basically the file that is backbone of this Terraform, because everything will be in this file. And next time when we'll run anything, then firstly it will check this file, and from this file it will take that what all things are there on cloud and what all things are there not on cloud. So let's see whether it is doing something or not, because usually plan don't take much time, but looks like it is taking. So let's wait. But one thing we are sure that this time there is no error. So let's see what it is doing. The state file has been created. Okay guys, so it took some time. That's why I paused this video, because unnecessary. The video was getting lengthy. So we can see here like 8 resource it is going to add. There is nothing to change, nothing to destroy. So all the resources that is coming with plus plus, it is going to create all those resources, and it is not going to destroy, because if it is going to destroy something, that comes with red and with minus. So looks like everything is fine now, and every parameter is also correctly configured. So we can now go with the terraform apply command. So it will ask us whether we approve this command or not. So we need to put y. If we'll put, or we need to put yes. If we'll put anything else, then Terraform will stop here and it will not do anything. But here now we can see that it is firstly creating the resource group, then it is creating the virtual network, then it is creating public IP, then it is creating security group, and then it is creating subnet. So everything it is creating, and that we can see. So let's see how much time it takes in order to create a virtual machine. So now it is creating network interface, and again it is creating virtual machine now. So it is saying it's still creating. So now all the previous resources has been created, and now it is creating virtual machine. So this takes some time. So let me pause this video. Okay, so it took around 60 seconds, and now we can see that virtual machine has been created. So we'll go to Azure portal now, and here if we'll go to resource group, so we can see there is one resource group example has been created. Once we create any resource group and virtual network, then a second resource group, that is network watcher, also get created here. So just like in case of AWS, we are having VPC logs for virtual network. Similarly, this service is for the logs for that virtual network. So we'll go to this example resource group, and here we can see all those resources that were seen in slide that were created manually by self. Now it got create with the help of the script, and all the parameters that we provide, it created all those parameters. So if we'll go to virtual machine, then we can see test VM, the name of the virtual machine that we have given here. We can check it. Test VM we have given for the name. So the same virtual machine has been created, and there is one public IP assigned to this virtual machine also. So this is the public IP. So we can copy this IP and we can use putty in order to check whether this machine is accessible or not. So we'll place it here. We'll go and accept. And what was the username and password? So we'll take it from the file where we have given the username was testadmin. So we'll use the same username, test admin. Okay, and the password, what was the password? It's the password 1234 not. So now we are successfully able to log in. And what is the host name? It should be the host name for this machine. So it is host name. So this was the one that we were giving entry here. Computer name is the host name. So guys, in this way we can create a virtual machine using Terraform. So we firstly create everything in cloud by creating it manually, and so that we can get idea what all parameters are required. And once we are sure, then we can search those resources on Terraform cloud, what we can say registry cloud, so that we don't need to remember anything. We just need to copy paste it, and then we can run it. So now as our work is done, we need to destroy these resources also, because these resources actually consuming cost. So how to destroy it? Just in case of apply, we need to write destroy, yes. So let's close it. So once we write destroy, it will again ask us. So firstly, it ran a plan. So in that plan, it is giving that red minus. It means these all resources are going to destroy. So in plan, we can see 0 to add, 0 to change, but 8 to destroy. So if we'll say yes, then it will destroy everything in that resource group. So how it is checking that these all resources are going to destroy? By using this terraform.tf state file. So whenever it first time we run anything, it create terraform.tf state file, and from the next time when we'll run this terraform apply or destroy command, it will create a backup. So backup is that the previous action that we did, so it goes in backup, and the current action will go in terraform.tf state file. And it also give us .log.info file also, because if anyone is using, then it will provide a log, and on the same resource no one else can work at the same time. Because suppose if two people are working, one is creating something and one is destroy something, so there will be a contradict. That's why this log file got created on tf state file, so that the another user will get a message that this file is locked and in use with someone, so that there should not be any discrepancy by multiple user. So as we can see that it is saying still destroying for virtual machines. So it is destroying some resources. Once all those resources will get destructed, then it will give us a message that destruction complete, and we'll check on cloud whether there is anything or not. If not, it means we are good. So let's wait for some time. It takes some time, so let me pause this video. Okay guys, so it took around 3 minutes 1 second to get everything destructed, and now we can see that destroy complete, resource 8 destroyed. So in this way we can create virtual machine on cloud, and we can also destroy it using Terraform as an infrastructure as a code tool. So now check on cloud whether that resource group is there or not. So we'll go to resource group, and here we are only seeing this network watcher resource group, which is not the actual resource group we created. So in the virtual machine, if we'll go, there is no virtual machine. So looks like we are good. So guys, I'm done with today's video. I hope you liked it. And if you liked it, please give a like to this video. And please also subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you in my next video.